What's up guys, I'm BTC. We just got a PTR update with a brand new map, and hidden inside of it is what I am almost certain is a teaser for a hero in Overwatch 2. The first thing to cover is the fake new hero, which I think was specifically added to be a distraction. It's kind of like a magic trick where the magician wants the audience to look at one hand, when in reality, all of the stuff he's doing is happening in the other hand that nobody's paying attention to. Because the thing is, we've seen this character before at one of the BlizzCons years back, where Blizzard showed off a whole bunch of the early alpha characters. Some of them ended up getting changed and put into the game, others never made it. I believe this character was the original design of D.Va. They made a whole bunch of changes, and then D.Va ended up getting added to the game. It's entirely possible that this character could make it into the game at some point, but I still think that this image was added to be a distraction for the real hero teaser that you can find in other parts of the map. The main place that people have been looking at is this graffiti on the wall, and there's definitely some good stuff in here that I'll break down in just a minute, but there are also other locations in the map that give us some really good hints and teasers towards the upcoming Overwatch 2 hero. And again, I'll break down all that in just a minute, but first I want to play a video from Jeff Kaplan in the latest Overwatch dev update, and it will give us a little bit more of an idea of what we should be looking for.
Gorgeous map that takes place in Japan, and the attention to detail on the map is really cool. In fact, it's not just some random setting. There's a lot of contextual storytelling we're doing in this free-for-all map with some Easter eggs and some payoff that's going to come in Overwatch 2, but we're going to learn more not only about our two favorite Shimada brothers, but possibly some other people as well that relate to that whole group. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the map. Other, like I mentioned, story Easter egg. You should really pay attention to every piece of graffiti, every location in this.
So Jeff Kaplan gives us a lot of stuff to go on. He mentions how the Shimada brothers are going to get more lore. This map is going to be connected to that. It's going to include Overwatch 2 stuff. Right away, you think, okay, it's either going to be part of the campaign or is it going to be connected to a new hero? He also specifically mentions the graffiti on the wall, so I thought that that would be a pretty good spot to start. Also, I should point out that before I recorded this video, I did several hours worth of research. I found some really cool stuff that's connected to this map. I'm going to share it all with you guys, and I think you're definitely going to like it. Looking at the graffiti, there are 4 things that should pop out to you: the fox, the leg, the eye, and the arrow. Starting with the fox, I realized that there were other foxes in the map. If you fly over to this area, in front of what appears to be some kind of a shrine, there are 2 statues of foxes, and they have something in their mouth. Now, because this is supposed to be connected to the Shimada brothers, and they're connected to the dragon spirits and that sort of stuff, I immediately started doing some research on Japanese folklore and fox spirits. As it turns out, foxes are quite common in Japanese folklore. Also, I'm going to completely mess up a lot of these pronunciations, but it is what it is. The first thing that I found was the kitsune, which is literally the Japanese word for fox, and there's a lot of different versions of them. Some are shapeshifters, others are tricksters, some are considered very faithful and loyal, others are used as trusted messengers, lots of different versions of them. One of the things that I noticed was that some of these foxes are able to create something called Kitsune Bee, which is essentially a spirit energy thing. It's kind of like a will-o'-the-wisp. It's a little flame spirit type thing. One of the ways that these little fire spirits are created is when the fox holds a bone in its mouth. And if you go into the map and you look at the statues of the foxes, what do you know? They're holding something in their mouth, and I guarantee you it's supposed to be a bone. And I recognized that, and I thought, hold on a second here. And I went back into the map, and I looked, and sure enough, right under the bridge, next to the statues of the foxes, are these little glowing lights. Now, I originally thought that they were fireflies, and maybe that's what they are. Maybe they are just fireflies, but it certainly seems like they might be the Kitsune Bee, which is the little spirit energy things that the foxes can create. Now, another name for these things is called foxfire. There's also a subtype of the Kitsune Bee called a Minobi, which is a little bit more hostile to people, but they're also created by fire that is made by magical foxes. As it turns out, Kitsune Bee, and the Minobi are something referred to as a yokai, and I didn't know what this was, so I looked it up, and it is some sort of supernatural creature. There's lots of different kinds of it. But I also noticed the Japanese kanji for the word yokai. Now, I can't read Japanese, but I do have the remarkable talent of matching shapes. And what I did was I copied the font from the kanji, and then I went over and I kind of overlaid it on top of the graffiti, and it's a little difficult to see because the graffiti is a little stylized, but it certainly does appear that that word yokai is written in the graffiti. Now, I can't read Japanese, so someone would have to correct me on whether or not this is actually the thing, but it certainly does look like it to me. At some point around this time, I remembered that last year there was an article written about Overwatch 2. Some people were able to get a little bit of extra access and see some of the stuff. They weren't able to look at the characters in action or even the full color images. They were just able to see some of the silhouettes of the characters. And one of them was described as a woman who had a small fennec fox as kind of like a companion or something. I'll put a link to the article down below if you want to read the whole thing, but the important part is this section here. What appeared to be a female with short hair. At her side and standing up to her knees was a fuzzy little critter with the pointy ears and an equally pointy tail. It looked like a fennec fox, but with longer ears and a more aggressive stance. Let's go back to that graffiti. Of the 4 things, I just covered the fox. There are 3 left. The first is the leg, which just kind of looks like a normal leg at first glance, but the top of it seems to have more of a normal skin color, and then the bottom is the green or the gray, which is what is typically used to denote someone that is undead or supernatural or a demon or something like that, but it also has a painted toenail, which would make it a woman's leg or a female demon leg, whatever you want to call it. And then if we look at the eyeball, it also builds upon this because it has eyelashes, which again is an artistic way of indicating the eyeball belongs to a woman. So that female character silhouette with a pet fox seems to be looking better and better as we go. And the last thing is the arrow, which to me looks quite a bit like what would be used for a character's ability icon. I went through and looked at all the other characters in the game because lots of them use arrows for their ability icons, but the thing is, none of them actually looked like this. What I'm talking about here is the body has the cuts, multiple cuts, where you have the little piece in the middle. If you look at the other abilities that use arrows for the icons, none of them quite look like this. I mean, sure, there are some that are close, like Nano Boost and Res, where they have the arrow kind of being cut a little bit, but none of them have the multiple cuts with the piece in the middle. And I couldn't quite figure out where I had seen ability icons that look like this. I went through all the characters multiple times trying to find an icon that looked like this with the multiple cuts and the little piece in the middle, and I just couldn't find it. Then I realized I was looking in the wrong spot. You see, there are ability icons that look like this, except they weren't made by Blizzard, they were made by me. As you can see, the arrows that are in the icons that I use for my hero concepts generally have lines cut into them, separating them into little pieces, which is usually indicating some sort of motion or some other effect. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting for even a second that Blizzard saw my videos and they're mimicking the style off of some of the icons or anything. It's almost entirely coincidence that they're doing this, but they're probably doing it for the same reason, to show motion of some kind. And that's pretty much what this looks like to me. This now looks even more like it's an icon for some new character. Combining what Jeff Kaplan said, plus the article from last year, plus the stuff in this map, it certainly does appear that there is going to be a new Japanese hero that's going to be a woman that has some sort of a pet fox. What that pet is going to do, I have no idea. Maybe it'll be an ability where you can call it out and it goes and does something. Maybe it scouts, maybe it goes and does damage, or maybe it's just cosmetic and it doesn't affect gameplay in any way whatsoever. Brigitte has an emote where she has the cat, Orisa has an emote with the dog, and Bastion obviously has the bird. So I mean, it's entirely possible that it could just be another pet that is cosmetic, shows up in emotes and highlights and stuff, but otherwise doesn't affect the game. Alright, so let me ask you guys, do you think that this is actually going to be a new hero for Overwatch 2? And if it is, what kind of abilities do you think the character is going to have? And is the fox going to actually be useful, or is it just going to be something extra cosmetic? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to be commenter of the video, then leave yours, and while you're at it, ring the bell so you never miss a new video. Also, if you want to get some cool gear, join my Discord server, or follow me on social media, then check out the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.